One of the hardest things about entrepreneurship is when you're showing up, you're doing all the things you should be doing, and you're getting no's, or things are stalling, or you are in limbo. For me, one of the worst feelings is when I'm in limbo, or I feel like I'm spinning my wheels and just not getting progress as fast as I want to. Right? Even though I totally know how this game goes for the most part, at this point, I still will just get frustrated when I'm in limbo or things aren't going quick enough. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to cover 8 things you can do to make sure that as you're getting rejections, when you're pitching investors, if you feel like you're stalling out, or if you feel like you're in limbo, 8 things that are really important to consider doing to make sure that you can keep your mindset strong and push forward and not let that stuff actually stall you. That's the most important thing. It can feel like you're spinning your wheels, it can feel like you're stalling, but you've got to maintain that momentum. Okay, we are about midsummer. I know summer is not the best time to be out there pitching investors. Everybody's on vacation. Business in general typically slows down. Depends on what you're in. Obviously, if you're selling, beach towels, summer sales pick up, but there's a lot of industries and a lot of businesses that tend to slow down a little bit during summer. And I think going out and raising money is definitely one of those. So you might be right now getting a lot more cricket sounds than you are getting emails of people who are eager to set up a meeting with you to hear your pitch or have that follow-up meeting or actually give you the money and write the check, right? And that can start getting discouraging. That's what we're going to cover today. It's really important. I've had a couple situations recently where I've kind of felt in limbo on a couple things, and I have to catch myself because I'm the kind of person, I like progress. I like taking action, and I like being rewarded for the action that I'm taking by seeing progress. And when you feel like you're taking action over and over and over, and you're not getting the reward of progress, it can really mess with you a little bit. And it's important to push through that and to keep taking action and not let that stall you out. I think too, for me, even just summertime right now, it's we've got a bunch of travel stuff. We're not going anywhere far this year, more like local trips. We were just up at our place north of Santa Barbara for a couple of weeks. I think we're going to go down to San Diego for a week. We're going up to kind of Pacific Northwest for a week. So nowhere too far, but it's hard to get all the stuff you want to get done sometimes that you get done in a normal week when you are, kind of bouncing around traveling a lot. So I think that can kind of just stall things a little bit as well. Like if you're out there trying to raise money this summer and you've got kids home and, camp is from 10 to 2. That doesn't give you a full day to do all that you need to do. And even if you're, doing stuff at night or you're doing stuff early in the morning, it can be harder to get that focused time that you need to kind of get all the stuff done. So just the nature of it being summertime for a lot of people, it can feel like things have slowed down a little bit. And that can be frustrating when you're kind of like, I got to make this happen. I got to raise this money. I got to, get this stuff done. So I have found myself in that situation recently with a few things. And so I'm going to just talk about kind of 8 simple things that I do. It doesn't mean I do them all the time. It doesn't mean I do all of them. But there are things that I definitely do utilize to help me push through that kind of limbo feeling, spinning wheels. And what I found too is whenever you feel like you're in limbo, I just want to pick a direction and go, or you feel like you're spinning your wheels, it's kind of right before there's a big breakthrough. So there's something about that. And I think if you can trust that process, that it's just keep taking action, keep taking action. You might feel like you're in limbo. You might feel like you're spinning your wheels, but it's just, there's something that's about to pop and you just got to trust that process. But I'm going to go into kind of 8 things that can be useful if you're in that situation right now and you're feeling like you just kind of are in a slump, or you want to prevent getting into a slump. Things that might help out. So anyway, but I'd love to hear from you too. Email me if you have any thoughts or what you do, hello@seedmoneypodcast.com or on LinkedIn. Would love to hear from you guys. It's so fun connecting with everyone. I love it. So, okay, let's dive in here. The first one is really reframing. So when you're getting no's from investors, or you're getting even worse than a no, I love a no from anybody, if it's sales or whatever, the worst thing is just not hearing back. And I actually really try to make an effort. I know I'm not perfect at it, but if someone's trying to sell me something, I always try to do the decency of giving them a no, thank you, just to close the loop and not leave them hanging. But man, yeah, more often than not, people definitely leave you hanging. And it's just because people are busy. It's not personal. But I think reframing those situations. So your brain wants to say, when you get that, your brain wants to tell you something negative, like you're not cut out for this. This isn't going to work. And it takes a mental shift to be able to just kind of push those thoughts out and replace them with positive. So instead of letting your brain go there, let's say you got a no from this investor that you thought was just absolutely perfect, right? I think, just reflect on what worked, what didn't, what would I do differently next time? And for me too, it's just so simple, but it wasn't meant to be. I totally believe that. I've seen so many things play out in my life and career that sometimes when I thought something was perfect, it just wasn't meant to be. And it's because there was something different for whatever reason, better, or something else I had to figure out outside of that. So I think just trusting that wasn't meant to be and trying to kind of remove the emotion from it and not blame yourself, right? I think that's really important. So reframing the narrative. The second one is create a bounce back ritual. So 100% for me is going for a walk. I am such a, nature person, and I will go for a walk. I will not listen to a podcast, and I will literally just stare at green. And it totally resets my brain. It gets me out of my head, and it just makes me feel better and uplifted. And so whatever that is for you, if it's exercise is absolutely critical. I can't say that enough. So, but whatever your bounce back ritual is, if it's exercise, it should be something positive, right? So it shouldn't be go have 4 margaritas, with your friends. There can be a fun social part of that, but ideally it should be something where you're feeling, sharper and more on top of it and better. Again, if you're 23, go for it. You can hang. I can't do that anymore. But create some kind of ritual that will work for you and know what that is, and try to recognize okay, I'm feeling like I'm spinning my wheels. I can feel this frustration or fear bubbling up, and try to get in the habit of letting that trigger going out for a walk or doing whatever it is that you can do that will help you bounce back into just kind of more of a positive mindset. Okay, number 3, this is a big one. Track your progress differently. So if you're out raising money and you are tracking your progress based on yeses and getting checks, that is going to feel so defeating, because that is the absolute minority result out of everything you're going to get. So a much better metric to track is how many people you've pitched. And this is so powerful. So don't even focus on the no or the yes. Just focus on the number of pitches. I just interviewed someone, I think it was yesterday, and he was saying he was pitching VCs, and it was literally the 100th VC that said yes. So imagine if he stopped at 90, if he stopped at 80, If he was tracking yeses and he got to 30, 40, 50, 60 and didn't get a yes, think of how defeating that would be. But if he was like, I am going to pitch 150 VCs, 200 VCs, then you're tracking and you're actually like feeling like you're making progress because you're like, wow, I'm up to 20, I'm up to 40, I'm up to 60, I'm up to 90. You're doing what you need to be doing. So track your progress differently. If you feel like you're stalling, if you feel like you're spinning your wheels, can you track what you're doing a little bit differently? I've said this before on here, but like even just starting this podcast, when I started it, I was like, I am not going to track downloads or views on YouTube because I have no control over that. Like you cannot control if an investor says yes or no. Of course, you're going to practice, you're going to get better, you're going to fine tune your deck, you're going to find out the objections, you're going to put those, how to overcome those objections in your deck so that your chances of getting an investor to understand what you're doing and the value in it. Of course, you're going to get better and be able to do that better along the way, but you still cannot control what they're going to do. So there's no sense in tracking your progress based on what someone else is going to do. So again, for me with the podcast, the one thing I could control is putting these episodes out consistently. I was like, that's it. If I can keep doing that, I will feel good. And it has been so helpful because if I was tracking my YouTube views, I mean, my subscribers, they've been growing a little bit, but it takes time. Nothing happens overnight. I'm like, I don't know. I'm still trying to improve all the time, but I can't control those other metrics or, people watching or downloading or whatever, but I can control how many episodes I put out and how consistent I am. And that's the one thing you can control with pitching investors. So what's your target number of investors you're going to pitch? Make the first chunk of those practice and know you're not going to get very far right out of the gate. Most likely. Of course, there's the very rare situation, but I would not count on it. And then track, what can you track? So maybe you're tracking pitches. You can track, it's basically a sales funnel, right? So the more you put in the top of the funnel, the more that's going to come out the bottom. So you might want to track outreach and then track number of follow-ups or number of, in-person meetings or something like that. But if you just track outreach and networking, like how many warm leads can I get or intros can I get in the next month or next 2 months? So track something that you have more control over. As a follow-on to that, number 4 is normalizing rejection. Rejection hurts a lot less when you're expecting it. So rejection is part of the process. You're going to get no's. Again, it's not a personal ding on you. So just tell yourself rejection is part of the deal and try to normalize it. So do whatever you can, again, to just expect rejection to some extent. It's not that you want to visualize being rejected, but expect it to some extent. This is, customers and clients and whatever, especially with investors, right? So just try to normalize rejection as best you can. Separate yourself. It's not failure. It's just part of the process. And when you get it, try to separate yourself emotionally from it and just go, okay, move on. So one of the things I like to do to kind of piggyback on, number 3 and 4 is if I find myself hoping that someone is going to say yes, or someone's going, something's going to happen. I'm hoping and kind of hanging on that one thing. Not immediately, but once I realize what I'm doing, I immediately shift my focus towards basically just saying, okay, whatever happens, there happens. I'm not going to get hung up on that. And I am just going to shift my focus on new opportunities. And it has worked every single time I've done that in my life. It's crazy. So, rejection's part of it. Being in limbo is part of it. And you want to, once you kind of realize, that's what you're doing, that's a normal part of the process. And then just shift your attention to other opportunities. Okay, number 5. Now, this is one that I think sounds great on paper. I don't do it as much as I should, but kind of have a check-in with yourself. Where am I at mentally? I think a good time to do this is like the beginning of the week, or like Sunday or something like that. Fridays, you're just kind of zapped. But, Monday morning, like, where am I at? How am I feeling? Is there anything I'm frustrated by? Is there anything I'm feeling down about? And just check in with yourself. Where are you at? Because sometimes just acknowledging that and giving yourself a little bit of space to see where you're at can really help you to take the steps to just kind of get past that. So, maybe it's I don't know, it's a quick check-in on your calendar, like, quick Monday check-in, like, where am I at? How am I feeling? Am I going into this week with I have got this, I'm going to crush this. Know what my goals are. I know the one thing I'm focused on is more outreach, identifying more potential investors, getting more warm intros. What's the thing you're focused on this week? All the other stuff, believe me, your time will get filled up with plenty of other stuff. But at the beginning of the week, check in, see where you're at, and make sure you have your game face on to really like go after it that week and focus on the things and not get distracted by a bunch of little stuff. I think when we get in the mode of, feeling a little bit down or discouraged, it can be really easy to let all the BS distract us and not focus on the one thing you need to be focused on to actually move the needle and get the end result that you need, in a month or two or whenever it is you need that. Number 6, this one is crucial. This one's a non-negotiable in my book. So monitor what your brain is consuming. If you are in this space, fundraising is not easy. Rejection is not easy. I mean, maybe it is for you if you're a little bit of you got a little bit of a screw loose if you're just like loving rejection, but most people don't. And for most people, it is hard, at times. And rejection comes in a lot of different ways. It can either be crickets or someone can be a total asshole. And those total assholes can sometimes get to us. So what are you consuming? If you are consuming, now everybody has a different tolerance for this stuff too. My brain has a low tolerance for negative content. I can't consume the news. I can't consume a bunch of stuff that is just going to bum me out. So I'm very careful to consume content that is uplifting, inspiring, it keeps me motivated. Or I'm learning. For me, if I'm learning, I'm motivated. That's just like who I am and how my brain works. So what is it that makes you feel motivated versus not? And make sure you're consuming content and media and stuff that is in the bucket of motivation and not in the bucket of worry and fear and, whatever. Super, super important. I think that one's a non-negotiable. Number 7, lean on your founder community. You guys, isolation is the enemy of resilience. It is so important to find a little community of entrepreneurs because it is a lonely process. Your friends, your family, they don't know what you're going through. They don't know what you're dealing with. It can be really challenging. If you're lucky and you have a co-founder, that's awesome. But if you are a solo CEO, even if you have employees, you can't always be totally real and open with your employees. So you've got to have that founder community of like-minded people who are going through the same thing that you're going through and be able to lean on them and just kind of, embrace with them the process. So a little bit of vulnerability will help decrease your, recovering time as you're getting rejections. It'll kind of keep you going longer. It'll normalize the process too. Because again, it can be lonely and you're like getting all these, no's or rejections or crickets or whatever. And if you have a community of people who are all going through the same thing, you'll be like, oh, yeah, okay. Now, if you're just looking at, say, like Instagram and you're seeing the highlight reel of people who are all just like getting funded, or, you're reading some entrepreneurship magazine. It sounds like everybody's getting funded except for you. Well, that's not real life. That's not accurate. That's just kind of the highlight reel again. So you really need a small community of people, or whatever size community, going through what you're going through to help normalize the process and make you realize that a lot of what you see in the media is being glazed over and not actually, telling the whole story. And it's only sharing the real highlights, the people who just got the funding or just did whatever. So I think make sure you have that community, find them. I've had everything from like small groups of entrepreneurs where we go to dinner once a month. And oh my God, I used to look forward to those dinners. They were so great. I've got friends who I like never even see. I have one friend in Boston. Her and I talk like once a week, once every 2 weeks. And we've only met once in person. We were in a mastermind together, but we've literally been talking for like 2 years. And it's just nice. We know each other so well at this point, and we know what each other are going through in various, stages of things. And it's super fun because you just have somebody who kind of understands where you're at and what you're going through, or be a part of a bigger group where, you're at least just kind of hearing what people are, sharing war stories to understand that you are not alone. You're not the only one going through this. Okay, last one. And again, I don't even do this one well enough, and I know I should, but celebrate the micro wins. Give yourself a pat on the back. You guys, this is not easy. It is not an easy process raising money, but you are doing the things that other people will not do. I can't say that enough. Like, be proud of yourself no matter what stage you're at, no matter what part of the process. If you haven't raised the money yet, if you are determined, you will do it. It might take some zigs and zags or whatever, but whatever your end goal is, if it's to work for yourself, if it's to change the world, if it's to build more wealth, whatever that big goal is, you will get there if you just keep pursuing it. And there's going to be wins and there's going to be losses along the way. And it might be zigging and zagging. It might feel like it's not going that way. But when you do get a turn and when something goes right, try to celebrate that. Even if it's just so much as going like, hey, I feel proud of myself right now that I did that. That's it. Like, it can be as simple as that. Or go have the 4 margaritas, with your friends, whatever. You know what I mean? Or go just do something like treat yourself to an extra dose of exercise or whatever it is that you love to do. Recognize that you made some progress and celebrate it, and just feel good and feel proud of yourself, because it peaks and valleys. There's lots of peaks and valleys in entrepreneurship. And it's just when you're at the peak and you're feeling good, it's important to celebrate it. So I've gotten better at that. I used to not do it at all. I used to just have my head down. And I was like, work. And now I'm like, no, I'm gonna celebrate and enjoy it. So here's your challenge for this week. Figure out a few of those that work for you. Make sure you have those, habits that you can lean on as you're going through the pitching process. And just know, find your community, surround yourself with positive content, stuff that motivates you and keeps you going and feeling good. And that's it. You've got this. I know where there's a will, there is a way. It is not always easy, but it is 100% possible. So we'll see you guys next time.